The shuttle from Napa County Airport dropped me at the vineyard gate, and the air already smelled off too much perfume cutting through the grapevines. I followed the gravel path toward the tasting room heels, sinking briefcase swinging. Through the open barn doors, I saw Mom behind the counter, eyes puffy, polishing the same wineglass again and again. Dad sat on a stool, his hands trembling so hard the ice in his water rattled. Then Peyton's voice sliced through the room like a corkscrew. "Get out, this is our tasting tour now." Chase leaned against the bar, arms crossed, laughing like he'd just hit the jackpot. The tourists froze, mid-sip. I pushed through the side door, the one the harvest crew uses, and every head turned. Silence fell heavier than the afternoon heat. "My name's Morgan Ellis. I'm 38, a real estate attorney who closes 7-figure deals before breakfast. 2 weeks ago, I handed my parents the keys to a cottage tucked inside this Napa vineyard, $450,000 paid in full, theirs for their 40th anniversary. I set it up quietly, a trust in their names, co-op dues prepaid for 20 years, fridge stocked with their favorite Pinot. I wanted them to wake up to rows of vines instead of overdue notices. I never told anyone else." Now Peyton waved a laminated tour schedule like a trophy, and Chase pocketed a tip jar already stuffed with 20s. Mom's whisper barely carried Morgan. Dad couldn't even look up. I stepped fully inside the door, creaking shut behind me. The laughter stopped. That's when the truth walked in. Drop a comment if your family ever turned a gift into their side hustle. Did you fight back or walk away? Share your story below and let's see how many of us have been there. Growing up in a double-wide trailer outside Fresno, the kind with aluminum siding that rattled every time a semi roared down Highway 99, taught me early how money disappears. Dad fixed tractors at the co-op until his back gave out, and Mom graded papers under a single lamp to save on the electric bill. I was the kid who balanced the checkbook at 12, who already knew the difference between past due and final notice. My brother Chase came 2 years later, easy smile, big dreams that never landed. While I studied for the LSAT on leftover cafeteria trays, he drifted from community college to sales gigs that promised commissions but delivered pink slips. Law school buried me under loans thicker than the Fresno fog. I paid them down by clerking nights, then landing a junior associate position in Sacramento, a 2-hour commute each way. Chase called during my first major closing. His car had broken down again, needed $1,000 to keep the repo man away. I wired it from the parking garage. That became the pattern. He failed the real estate exam, sent another $1,000 for the retake. Startup idea for custom phone cases, $3,000 for inventory that gathered dust in his garage. I told myself it was an investment in family, not enabling. Then Peyton arrived. Chase met her at an influencer meetup in LA. She posted ring light selfies and talked nonstop about brand partnerships. Their wedding vision board screamed luxury vineyard venue, string quartet, designer gowns. My parents offered the trailer backyard. Peyton laughed it off. Venue deposit $5,000 from my bonus. Dress alterations 2 more. Honeymoon fund just to get them started another 4. Venmo notifications pinged like slot machines. Peyton for content camera, Chase for networking event. I transferred without hesitation, smoothing over the sharp edges of their chaos. By 35, I was on partner track, closing commercial deals across California. Chase drifted jobless. Peyton's follower count climbed, but the sponsorships never covered rent. I bought him a used pickup, reliable, he said, for a delivery side hustle. Title in his name, payments from my account. When the engine seized 6 months later, he needed another ride. I stopped asking why. The vineyard cottage surfaced through a client flipping agricultural land. Tucked at the end of a private row in Napa Valley, stone walls, wrap-around porch overlooking Cabernet vines, priced at $450,000. I saw Dad's tired eyes light up at the listing photos. Mom traced the kitchen island on the printout like it was porcelain. Their 40th anniversary was coming up. I wanted them trading overdue notices for sunrise over grapes. I structured the trust carefully, parents as lifetime beneficiaries, me as trustee, with removal powers in case of interference. Co-op dues prepaid 20 years into a dedicated account. HOA equivalent managed through the Vineyard Collective, no short-term rentals ever. I closed escrow quietly, flew in contractors for fresh paint, stocked the wine fridge with their favorite local Pinot, and tucked a note in the utensil drawer for lazy mornings and louder laughs. Love, Morgan. I told no one, not even Chase. On the anniversary eve, I drove them up from Fresno 3 hours along I-5, Dad gripping the armrest like a kid. We pulled through the gates at dusk. Mom stepped onto the porch, inhaled the scent of earth and yeast, and whispered that it smelled like possibility. Dad ran his hand along the stone, his voice cracking when he tried to thank me. We opened a bottle on the swing and watched the vines turn silver under the moon. I slept on the couch to test the plumbing, everything perfect. The next morning, I kissed them goodbye and caught a red-eye to a conference in San Francisco. The cottage was theirs, keys in Dad's pocket, trust airtight. I figured the hardest part was over. Mom called while I was in a deposition downtown, her voice small against the courtroom echo. Peyton had spotted Dad's Facebook story, a blurry sunset over the vines captioned "New View." She triangulated the address from the co-op sign in the background, packed Chase, their son Jackson, and the golden retriever into the SUV, and rolled up the gravel drive before lunch, a cooler of energy drinks rattling in the back. Peyton burst through the cottage door, first phone already recording. Chase hauled ring lights from the trunk and set them up in the living room. Jackson kicked off his sneakers while the dog sniffed every corner. Dad stood in the kitchen, coffee mug halfway to his lips. Mom hovered near the fridge. Peyton spun the camera toward herself. Surprise family takeover, Napa Wine Stay, launching today. She snapped photos of the porch swing in the golden light, added filters, and typed the listing right there on her laptop at the island. $800 a night, 2-night minimum private tour included. The description promised exclusive vineyard access, sommelier-led tasting. The calendar filled fast weekend groups from San Francisco bachelorette parties, corporate retreats. By evening, the first guests arrived, a charter bus crunching up the gravel drive. Peyton greeted them in a branded apron, pouring samples from bottles taken from the fridge, my parents' anniversary stash. Chase collected tips in a mason jar labeled Vineyard Vibes. Dad tried to explain that the cottage belonged to him and Mom, but Peyton cut him off with a laugh, handing him a broom. Help sweep the patio, guests expect perfection. Mom suggested waiting until I arrived. Peyton waved her off. Morgan's always working, let the grown-ups handle revenue. That night, they moved my parents out. Dad carried the fold-out cot from the hall closet to the equipment shed behind the tasting room, metal walls, no insulation, a single fan stirring hot air. Mom folded their clothes into a plastic bin, eyes fixed on the floor. The shed smelled of fertilizer and old oak barrels. Jackson set up his gaming console in the master bedroom. The dog claimed the couch. Peyton posted a selfie from the porch, wine glass at her lips, captioned, "Cock Wine Boss." Chase commented below, "Finally a revenue stream that doesn't involve Morgan's guilt trips." Dad texted me a single line, "Something off here." Mom followed with, "They say just a weekend. Please don't worry." I was in a San Francisco hotel prepping for closing arguments and ignored the pings at first. Depositions run long. Near midnight, I opened Airbnb on my phone. There it was, Napa Wine Stay Cottage, luxury vineyard escape. Photos I'd never seen, Peyton lounging on the swing, Chase toasting with strangers, the calendar blocked solid through harvest season. Payout directed to an account ending in digits. I recognized Peyton's. Reviews already trickling in. Host super responsive, best hidden gem. I scrolled the guest list, 24 people checking in the next day alone. The cottage I'd wired every penny for now had a lockbox code posted in the listing. Dad sent another text, shed hot. Mom added a whisper-thin voice note. They changed the Wi-Fi password. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred, thumb hovering over call. Instead, I booked the earliest flight back to Napa, rental car waiting at the curb. The plane hadn't even taxied when Peyton posted another story, tour group clinking glasses on the porch, tagline, "Manifesting generational wealth." I landed at Napa Airport at dusk, rental keys already in hand. The drive through the valley took 30 minutes, rows of vines fading into black silhouettes. I turned off the main road onto a service lane, tires crunching over dirt the guests never saw. Parking behind the fermentation tanks, I grabbed my briefcase and slipped through the employee gate I'd mapped months earlier. The air carried yeast and charcoal from a nearby grill. Voices spilled from the tasting room, Peyton's amplified through a portable speaker, rattling off fake facts about soil pH and barrel aging. Chase stood at a folding table, stacking crisp bills into a tip jar. A dozen strangers milled about with plastic cups, nodding along. Mom polished a stemless glass at the sink, knuckles white. Dad perched on a stool in the corner, staring at the floorboards like they might open. I crossed the threshold and set the briefcase on the island with a deliberate thud. Conversations faltered. Peyton lowered the speaker mid-sentence. Chase pocketed a 20. Mom froze. Dad looked up, relief flickering. Peyton recovered first, her smile tight. Morgan, perfect timing. We're calling this a family asset now. Revenue shares for the elders, of course. I flipped the latches. A family asset requires family consent. I pulled the first document, trust deed record, stamp fresh. Lifetime beneficiaries Walter and Shirley Ellis. Exclusive occupancy. No sublets. Chase snorted. Paperwork. Cute. The second sheet, co-op bylaws, highlighted clause. Commercial activity prohibited. Violation triggers fine and expulsion from the collective. Peyton's eyes narrowed. We're enhancing value. Tours, educate. The third printed email chain sent from my phone en route. Airbnb trust and safety attached, deed bylaws, screenshots of the listing. Subject immediate removal request, unauthorized commercial use. I tapped the screen. Already flagged. Account suspension pending review. Chase stepped closer. You can't just... I hit play on my phone. Peyton's voice filled the room, time-stamped months back. She'll cave if Mom cries, always does. Guilt's her currency. Silence heavier than Cabernet. Mom's rag dropped into the sink. Dad's stool scraped backward. Peyton lunged for the phone. I slid it away. The former co-op owner, Mr. Ramsey, is at the gate on speaker with county zoning. One nod from Dad and security rolls in. Dad stood, voice steady for the first time. My house. Peyton's face cycled through shock, calculation, and fury. This is sabotage. Chase crumpled a bill in his fist. We invested time. Time is an equity. I closed the briefcase. Pack the lights. Delete the listing. Refund every booking. Or Ramsey files the violation and the co-op votes tomorrow. A guest whispered about leaving. Peyton shot them a glare, then turned back. You're splitting the family. I'm enforcing the one I built. I looked at Mom. Your call. She met Peyton's eyes, then mine. Enough. The speaker crackled as Peyton killed the mic. Chase kicked the table leg. Jackson appeared in the doorway, earbuds dangling, sensing the shift. The dog whined from the porch. I dialed Ramsey, line open. We're ready. Headlights swept the driveway, 2 golf carts, co-op security logos glowing. Ramsey's security golf cart pulled up within 3 minutes, tires spitting gravel outside the tasting room windows. 2 uniformed guards stepped out, clipboards in hand. Ramsey followed behind, giving Dad a curt nod. Peyton's speaker sat silent on the counter. I pointed to the lockbox mounted on the porch post. Deactivate all keycards now. One guard scanned the device, entered the master code from the co-op office, and cleared all entries. Peyton's phone buzzed. Access denied. Chase fumbled his wallet. We have stuff inside. Then get it. I turned to the open laptop on the island. Peyton's Airbnb dashboard glowed on the screen. Using the trustee override I'd set up at closing, I logged in, navigated to the listing, and right there in front of everyone clicked pause calendar, then remove listing. A confirmation appeared, property delisted. Guests notified. The first refund processed automatically, $800 back to a bachelorette group. I scrolled through the reservations, hitting issue full refund on each. Messages fired off one by one. Host error, property unavailable. Peyton watched the numbers drop, her face draining of color. Jackson slunk out of the hallway, cheeks flushed, stuffing controllers into his backpack. He avoided everyone's eyes, grabbed a half-eaten bag of chips from the couch. The dog bounded after him, barking at the guard's boots, tail wagging in confusion. Mom stepped between us. "Can't we talk this out?" "Just sit, talking ended years ago." My tone stayed even. Boundaries aren't negotiations. Ramsey flipped open his clipboard, pen poised. Violation report, unauthorized commercial activity, displacement of beneficiaries. He handed the form to Dad. "Sign here to confirm." Dad took the pen, his hand steady this time, and signed. Ramsey countersigned, dated the form. Filed with the collective board at dawn. Fines start accruing at midnight. Peyton snatched her phone and angled it toward Mom, wiping away a tear. "Elder abuse, perfect for the story? That's defamation." I stepped into frame. "Cease and desist drafts are in my briefcase. One more post and it's served." She lowered the phone, thumb hovering over delete. Chase yanked a duffel from under the table, zipped it hard. He pulled the cottage key from his pocket and hurled it into the grapevines, metal flashing once, before disappearing among the leaves. Guests shuffled out quietly, murmuring apologies as they climbed back onto their bus. The engine revved, taillights fading down the drive. I started cleaning up, rolled up the vinyl tour banner with Peyton's smiling face, and dropped it into the trash. Wiped lipstick stains off the mirror with the rag Mom handed me. Swept bits of cork and confetti from the floorboards. Jackson carried the ring lights to the SUV, cords dragging. The dog jumped into the back seat, still barking. Peyton lingered at the door. "You'll regret isolating them." "They're not isolated." I reset the Wi-Fi router to the original password. "They're home." Chase slammed the trunk. Peyton climbed into the passenger seat, door thudding shut. The SUV roared to life, kicking up dust as it sped toward the gate. Ramsey watched until the taillights disappeared, then tipped his hat to Dad. Mom exhaled, her shoulders sinking. Dad leaned against the counter, scanning the empty room. I stacked the refund confirmations into a folder and slid it beside the trust documents. The tasting room fell silent, only the hum of the fridge and the faint chirp of crickets outside. My phone buzzed before sunrise, its glow washing over the dark ceiling of the guest room where I'd crashed after the chaos. TikTok alerts piled up, Peyton live from a dingy motel, eyes swollen, vineyard filter slapped over a plain wall. My sister stole our parents' vineyard dream, evicted us in front of strangers, all for control. Hashtag spread fast. Hi, sister betrayal. Hi, family greed. Hi, vineyard theft. Viewers flooded the comments, outrage, empathy, collab tags, everyone chasing the drama. I screenshotted the stream and sent it to my firm's media attorney with a short note. Prepare, cease and desist for defamation and harassment. The draft included timestamps, fabricated claims of elder abuse, and a demand for immediate removal. My partner replied within minutes, filed electronically, served via certified mail. Chase texted from a coffee shop, Wi-Fi, headed to Sacramento for a sales interview, warehouse distributor, solid benefits. Don't sabotage. I searched the company's HR portal and forwarded the live link anonymously, potential hire involved in public dispute. The confirmation email came quick, application paused, pending review, video raised concerns. Peyton pivoted again, launching a burner profile under Valley Secret Stay. She relisted the cottage using stolen porch photos, dropped the price to attract budget travelers, and billed it as an exclusive local pop-up. Bookings trickled in, couples, solo wanderers. Ramsey spotted the ad during his daily scan, cross-checked images with the co-op database, and alerted the board. A virtual vote followed, permanent revocation of her listing rights and IP ban on future attempts. I compiled the dossier, fake account data, metadata matches, prior violations, and uploaded everything to Airbnb's enforcement portal. Their escalation team responded fast. Profile terminated, payments reversed, user blacklisted. Dad sent a photo, rows of Cabernet deepening to purple, leaves curling in the wind. No caption needed. Mom followed with one of her own feet dangling from the porch edge, a glass of fresh juice in hand, horizon stretching endless green. Peyton bombarded the extended family chat with voice notes, spinning the eviction into abandonment. Cousins chimed in, some defensive, others silent. I muted notifications and set Do Not Disturb on the thread. Chase attempted a video call from the highway, signal shaky. I declined, replying, "Handle your own references." Ramsey emailed the official notice, co-op seal, bold print, no right of appeal. Dad printed it and pinned it to the fridge like a quiet victory. Mom started blending small batches of her own wine for fun. Dad tuned the old radio static, fading into music. I set up geofence alerts on the property app to ping if unfamiliar vehicles approached the gate. Peyton's final post fizzled, vague rant, no traction, deleted within hours. Chase pushed more resumes, online responses drying up from the viral fallout. Peyton scrubbed her grid, shifted to random lifestyle posts, engagement flatlined. Dad sent another picture, dawn mist lifting off the soil, promise heavy in the air. The fallout lingered in faint echoes, but the vines grew stronger, roots deepening into protected ground. I archived old emails, cleared out the noise. Mom's next photo showed the swing occupied, a book open on her lap. Dad's followed, tools laid out neatly for minor repairs, quiet satisfaction in the frame. Peyton filed restraining orders, dismissed for lack of evidence. Chase crashed with college friends, juggling gig work. Ramsey reset the gate code, shared it only with trusted hands. I reviewed the trust annually, adjustments minimal. Dad tested sugar levels in the grapes with a handheld meter. Mom hosted casual tastings, laughter drifting across the rows. The digital storm passed, leaving the cottage untouched, the air crisp with renewal. Harvest season arrived early that year, clusters bursting beneath a relentless sun that gilded the valley. Dad gathered a few longtime co-op friends for an intimate tasting in the stone cellar. No tickets, no filters. Mom uncorked bottles she'd cellared for decades, passing glasses as she retold stories of their first county fair date. Ramsey brought a crate of his private reserve, clapped Dad on the back, laughing about shared tractors and teenage pranks. I exited the extended family chat for good, archiving threads thick with blame. Blocked Peyton's numbers, Chase's burners, even Jackson's gaming handle to stop the steady drip of guilt. Divorce papers crossed my desk. Peyton filing for irreconcilable differences, no community property left to divide. Chase waived contest, packed a single duffel, and crashed on a former coworker's futon in a weathered Fresno duplex. I hired a discreet security firm to install motion-triggered cameras along the vineyard rows, lenses hidden inside birdhouses. The feed streamed to a tablet labeled Row Guard on the kitchen counter. Dad tested the night vision, chuckling at raccoons raiding fallen grapes. Mom hand-lettered vinyl stickers for the electrical panel piece over the main breaker, quiet on the porch lights. She smoothed them down, stepped back, and smiled at the order. Ramsey hosted a harvest lunch under the oaks, grilled sausages, fresh focaccia, laughter ringing against barrels. Dad carved the meat. Mom refilled plates, their faces softer than I'd seen since childhood. Chase emailed a plea for a LinkedIn endorsement, entry-level logistics job. I left it unread, let the algorithm bury it. Peyton resurfaced on a budget vlog platform, peddling discount beauty dupes from a fluorescent apartment. Views stalled in the low hundreds, comments off. Dad invested in a small crusher, pressing the first bins himself, juice running deep purple into steel tanks. Mom bottled samples for neighbors, corked with twine and handwritten tags. I scheduled quarterly trust reviews, flew up unannounced to walk the rows, check soil data, and adjust irrigation timers. Dad pointed out new shoots. Mom offered sun-warmed figs from her pocket. Ramsey upgraded the gate keypad, issued new codes only to crew and family. Laminated signs appeared, private property, no tours. Chase drifted through temp agencies, warehouse shifts, paycheck to paycheck. Peyton's ring light gathered dust in a closet. Dad rebuilt the porch swing, sanded it smooth, added cushions Mom chose from a local artisan. They tested it at twilight, creaking gently under shared weight. One crisp evening, I stood outside the tasting room, boots crunching gravel, watching through the glass. Dad cued an old vinyl from their wedding night. Mom Rose took his hand. They swayed slow, her cheek on his chest, his palm steady at her waist. Golden light spilled across the floorboards, vines framing them like a living portrait. The dog snored by the fire embers, whispering low. Boundaries aren't cruelty, they're the framework of lasting love. I once believed money could mend fractured ties, each transfer a stitch in a widening tear. But stitches rot when wounds keep reopening. Precision in paperwork, clarity in silence, refusal to finance chaos. These are what finally sealed the breach. The cottage thrives because entitlement was evicted, not indulged. Family isn't a balance sheet. It's a garden you tend or let overrun. Ours grows Cabernet and calm now. Roots sunk deep in soil, no longer tainted by expectation. Gifts should elevate, not enable. Peace is earned, one locked gate, one deleted contact, one honest harvest at a time. Morgan surprises her parents with a fully paid vineyard cottage, hoping to give them a peaceful retirement. But after her brother Chase and his wife Peyton discover the property, they secretly turn it into an unauthorized rental business and force her parents out of their own home. Instead of reacting emotionally, Morgan relies on legal documents, clear boundaries, and calm determination. She restores her parents' rights, walks away without reconciliation, and allows natural consequences to unfold as Chase and Peyton lose both their income and credibility. If you've ever been told that setting boundaries makes you selfish, please know that your feelings are valid. Many people spend years believing they must continue giving, fixing, and sacrificing just to keep peace within the family. They stay silent because they fear disappointing the people they love. But protecting your heart is never something you should feel guilty about. You deserve respect. You have every right to say no when your kindness is repeatedly taken for granted. You have the right to protect your time, your energy, your finances, and your emotional well-being. Wanting a healthier life doesn't mean you love your family less. It means you finally understand that your own life deserves care too. One of the greatest lessons we can learn is that loving ourselves is not the opposite of loving others. In fact, every healthy relationship begins with healthy boundaries. When we value our own dignity, we teach others how to value us as well. True love never asks you to abandon your peace, your identity, or your self-respect. Healing often begins with one quiet decision, the decision to stop carrying burdens that were never yours to carry. Every boundary you establish becomes another step toward freedom, confidence, and emotional peace. The strongest families are not built on guilt or obligation, but on mutual respect, honesty, and responsibility. If this story reminded you of your own experience, or if you've ever had to choose your peace over someone else's expectations, we'd love to hear your story in the comments. Your words may encourage someone who is walking through the same struggle today. Thank you so much for staying with us until the very end. If this story meant something to you, please leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and explore more heartfelt stories waiting for you in the description below. Until next time, always remember, protecting your peace isn't selfish. It's one of the most meaningful choices you can make for yourself and for every healthy relationship in your life.